Calvin Castine, with Judy Castine on the camera. I'm gonna get my watch so I can see it here.
Okay.
And we're at the North Country Honor Flight headquarters in beautiful downtown Plattsburgh, at the just off the Oval. And we've got a young lady that I'm gonna introduce herself because she's got a title and everything here.
Hi, I'm Janet Duprey, Director of Operations, a member of the Board of Directors for North Country Honor Flight. Absolute privilege to be in this position.
Director of Operations. That sounds like a lot of responsibility, Janet Duprey.
Well, it's Sheriff Rich Cutting had the position,
Okay.
and when he moved out of state, he asked me to step in. And to be honest, I kind of hesitated because I wasn't sure I wanted to get committed, but it is one of the best decisions I've made in a very long time.
Oh, good.
What an honor to, I don't have to tell you, to work
Yeah.
with these veterans and to interview them and talk with them. And I've been at all the ceremonies, as you know, except for the couple that they kept me in Albany overnight. But other than that, I've been here. But to really get involved and really have the opportunity to do the one-on-one and visit and just get to know them it's just one of the best privileges and honors I've ever had.
Yeah, because you've been flight, what's it, director, what's it called? The
Leader.
flight
I was
leader.
an assistant flight leader and then a flight leader, yes.
And when you're a flight leader and assistant flight leader, you get to get in there
Yes.
and start interviewing these people. And now as
Yes.
director of operations, I imagine you've carried on that as much as you can.
I absolutely have.
Because,
Yes.
people are kind of spread out as far as the whole North Country of where the honor flight gets their people from. But, I imagine you make as many of those interviews as you can.
I do. The flight leader really does those, and so I did it. Well, as the assistant flight leader and the flight leader, I did several. I've also picked up some when, sometimes folks just, things come up, and people just can't get them done, or there's a reason, and part of the opportunity I have, I certainly don't see as a chore. Part of the great opportunity is to be able to say, "Oh, that's all right. I'll take those 7 veterans and interview them." And of course, I get the chance to do the biography. So
Yeah.
if I have questions as I'm going through, I take every possible advantage of picking up the phone and calling them and saying, "I just want to clarify this," and then it usually turns into a half, 3/4 of an hour conversation. So it's just fun. It's really incredible.
Now, out there's somebody watching this who says, what is the North Country Honor Flight? So what's an honor flight? And the North Country is our portion of it, but tell us what an honor flight is, Janet.
And then our North Country Honor Flight, of course, covers a huge territory, and somebody calls and they want to go on the flight. We have our motorcycle guys and gals who are just incredible, and our law enforcement who will go just about any place within reason to escort a veteran. So an honor flight itself is the opportunity for us as civilians, as volunteers. And I think that's something I want to emphasize too, is we have absolutely no paid staff. Honor Flight is a 100% volunteer organization. And we work well together, and everybody does their part. And there's a lot of moving parts. And you've been at the ceremony, so you know the things that other people don't always see. Honor Flight is our chance to recognize and give the recognition and respect for each and every veteran who goes on a flight. Too often they didn't get that respect and that recognition when they came home from all of the wars. Certainly the World War II veterans, and unfortunately we're losing too many of them, but we have some going this year, and what a great opportunity that is. They went off to war. Some of them, I was with one a couple weeks ago. He was 17 when he left and went into war, and they came back and went back to work. And it's certainly nobody has to talk about the Vietnam era and the Vietnam veterans and what they went through. That's my era, probably your era. So we know that all too well. But this is our chance to give them a flight at no cost to the veterans. They don't pay for anything. To go to, first of all, our ceremony here, which I think if people haven't been to this ceremony on the U.S. Oval, get out of bed early in the morning. If I can get out of bed early in the morning, anybody can. I am not a morning person. We start at 7 o'clock. It is just an incredible ceremony with so many people who participate all the time. School children, Boy Scouts, the Honor Guards, it's an amazing event to watch, and we have hundreds of people,
Oh, show up,
as
yeah.
you know, who
Oh,
show
yeah.
up at 7 every single time, and so we have that, and then the procession over to Plattsburgh International Airport, which is awesome, with the fire trucks and the flags, and again with the motorcycle and law enforcement escorts. It's um, that's really the beginning of the send off. I mean, after their walk of honor to the bus, that I think it sinks in with the veterans that this really truly is their day.
Mm-hmm.
And their guardians, and every veteran has a guardian. That is mandatory. We do, on each flight, we have 15 veterans and 15 guardians. Most often, it's a family member or a close friend. Every now and then, if somebody doesn't have one, we can provide a guardian.
Right.
We have lots of people who are willing to step in and be a guardian anytime. And then when we fly out and land in Dulles, the crowd there is phenomenal at meeting people. It's just overwhelming. And I had heard that, but until I actually saw it last year,
Mm-hmm.
couldn't comprehend what a great welcome and what a reception they received there. Of course, we have a chartered tour bus that then takes us all off to the memorials. Generally start at the Arlington Cemetery and the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Move on to the World War II Memorial. We have a group photo taken there in front of the New York pillar. Iwo Jima, the Vietnam and the Korean War memorials, the Air Force Memorial.
Unknown Soldier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a very tiring day. It's a great day. To a person, when they've come back, they've said it's one of the best days of their life. Even if they have been down to Washington
Right.
several times and seen the memorials on their own, there's something about that camaraderie, that sharing stories, being able to talk about their own
Mm-hmm.
actions, whatever happened, and for some of them, it's the first time they've done that.
Amazing how many never
Yep.
spoke up and never
Yep.
talked about it, because it's something they've tucked away in the back of their brain somewhere, and in most cases don't want to talk about it.
Absolutely, and I noticed it particularly at the Vietnam Wall, and of course I'm emotional there because I have a brother-in-law whose name
Right.
is on the wall, and every time it just tugs at you. But several of them who found friends they lost, and it brings back a lot of memories, and I think it's a very healing process for many of them. That's certainly our goal,
Mm-hmm.
to have them come back and feel that every minute of that day was very special.
Yeah, and the wall that heals. The mobile one is going to be up
Yes.
in our neck of the woods this
Yes.
summer, so that'll
That's
be
great.
interesting. That's a little off topic.
Yeah.
The honor flight started. Do you know the national guy? The name of that national person who started? If not,
Yeah,
don't.
Barry does, and he's told me, but I don't remember.
But he started it. It's got to be well over a decade now, and
Yes.
I don't know the exact year, but basically to honor the World War II vets,
That's
because
correct.
when they put up the monuments, they kind of did it backwards. The World War II monuments weren't put up till after the Vietnam, after the Korean monuments were put up. So many of these older folks, and now we're talking, the war ended in 45. That's 75 years ago.
Yes.
So if you were 17 or 18, you're 92, 93 years old. That's the youngest people that we could have that were in the World War II. Legally, some lied about their age, and
We had one guy I interviewed, and he said he went in at 15, and he said he was just getting through basic. He was in basic training when he got called into the captain's office, and the captain said to him, "How old are you?" And he said, "Well, sir, if you're asking me, I think you know." And so he said to him, "Well, I'm 15," and he said they did let him stay,
wow,
but I can't imagine.
no,
Again, those of us who are parents and grandparents.
letting my son go off at 15,
15,
no.
16 or 17.
Yeah.
I just...
or 23. I don't care.
Yeah, no, well, my
But-
brother-in-law left at 19.
Yeah. So that was the original thing, was to
Yeah.
honor the World War II veterans, and I assume all the other honor flights are doing the same thing that North Country Honor Flight is. is, World War II was the priority, then the Korean,
Yes.
and now we're into a lot of the Vietnam era.
Yes.
But if you've got somebody who's served in, we'll call it modern times, Afghanistan or Iraq or whatever, and needs to take that trip,
Oh yeah.
they're welcome on it too.
Absolutely. In anybody who is really ill, particularly if it's a terminal, we will get them on the first available flight. Uh, we want everybody to have that opportunity. I'm working with a family right now where the dad's in the early stages of dementia. We want him to see.
Yeah, well, he's still.
He was a Vietnam era. We want him to see that wall while he can hopefully remember the wall. So we really try to flex as much as we can. But World War II, Korean, they're on.
Hmm. Yeah, they show up.
And we get them going, and we have quite a waiting list. But be open about that, because we have people who say, well, I've been on for 2 or 3 years. How come I'm not going? They are. I think we work very, very hard to be fair and go through all the applications, go through them every time we're having a flight to make sure I haven't missed something or that there isn't something in there. We're calling the veterans to make sure that has anything changed, particularly for an illness issue. But if a World War II veteran shows up and says, it's usually their family who will call and say, he finally just said he would go. When can he go? And we start looking at, all right, May 9th is first.
Right.
and we have to, obviously, to do all the interviews, have to start very early. Most of them are done. But we keep an open slot or two as late as we can. With United, we have to submit our passenger list 30 days in advance. So that's we know where our deadlines are. We know what we need to meet. But we keep at least an extra 1 or 2, because if that particularly if a World War II veteran or a Korean War veteran, there wasn't much difference between the Korean and the World War II. We've had Korean veterans going who are 91 years old. So if they call and say, I get a call from a family member, or Barry does, or any of our volunteers, and say, Mom or Dad would like to go, we will expedite. We will do applications. We will do checks. We will get a rush on jackets and shirts to make sure that they get on that flight. We've done it in less than 5 days.
Wow. Now we're doing this on Friday the 13th, day of March, 2020.
Yeah.
And for people watching now, they know what's going on around the world. People watching in the future, if there are people watching in the future, we'll remind everyone that right now we're in the turmoil, and things are just blowing up daily as far as the COVID-19 coronavirus. And I know honor flights have been canceled through April 30th.
That's correct.
At this point in time. Now yours isn't scheduled till May 9th, the first one.
Yes.
So it's at this point in time, you don't know if we're going to have that first one or any of them at this point in time. You've got to proceed as if you are.
And again, the interviews and all of that was already in process. New boxes of jackets and shirts have come in. We will use them at some point. We're very frugal with our money, by the way. Anybody who donates money to Honor Flight can be sure, and that's something else I should say, it goes to the veterans. We don't have any fluff that we do.
Right.
So yeah, right now, you're right, National has said no honor flights till at least April 30th. We will be in contact with them and with United Airlines over the next few weeks. Again, May 9th, we have to have everything done by April 9th. So we will be having those discussions. That's coming up pretty quick.
Yes.
We will certainly be reaching out to our veterans and saying, so we just don't know if things open up. And again, we have to also be very cognizant of the population that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Some of these folks have some pretty serious health issues, and are they going to want to go? And that's where you get into the real tug, Calvin, is should they go? Do they want to go? If they don't go now, will they ever go? So these are, we're dealing with some very difficult and tough questions, but it's about the veteran. And it's about what's best for the veteran, and we will rely on family. We will rely on guardians to help guide us through what we should be doing. You know, each and every veteran becomes part of a bigger family.
Well, yeah, if they
And,
come back and the families come back.
Yeah, and it's
just-
so, this is without a doubt our biggest challenge that we've had. Hopefully the biggest challenge we will ever have.
Ever, yes.
But
And
will
hopefully
May
it's-
9th happen?
Hopefully it's peaked, and hopefully the challenge has peaked here, but we don't know.
You know, one of the discussions that Barry and I had just this week
Barry
is
Finnegan,
Barry Finnegan, our executive director.
Mhm.
Phenomenal man. I couldn't even guess at the number of volunteer hours he puts in a
She
week.
got
every
notes
week.
here that Barry left
Yeah.
her to read.
No,
Phenomenal, man. Yeah, he is. He's dedicated.
He's dedicated and concerned and gets it and really keeps everybody kind of focused on what our mission is, and our mission is to take care of our veterans. He, you know, he and I spoke, and if we don't do May 9th, we could, and so much of this, again, depends on United, and when their flights can be and will be, and when they will give us flights. Do we put another one in June? I mean, the work is done,
Right.
so it's not like, you know, we've
Okay,
been
the
squeezing
first-
a little with May 9th and May 26th, getting
Okay, so-
both of those done on time. So, but they are pretty much finished now, so then we're looking at June 20th, but,
But, okay, now if you have to reschedule May 9th, does that make a domino effect, or does the people planning on the 26th are already planning on that 26th, so?
if we can do the 26th, it will stay the 26th. I believe, that's kind of where we are now,
Okay,
and
9th?
maybe move the 9th to the 1st of June, or the very first part of June.
I'm trying to do my math here. Doesn't work out to 26th being a Saturday.
Oh, 23rd, I'm sorry.
23rd.
I'm sorry, yeah, May 23rd.
I'm trying to put 14
Yeah,
together
I,
here.
no,
23rd.
it's my
okay.
mistake, I apologize.
That's all right.
May 23rd. So there's only 2 weeks between those
Yeah,
flights.
yeah, we got a bazaar in St. Mary's on May 23rd. So.
Okay. But then we, you know, do we just then do another 2 weeks into June?
Right. But again,
If
well,
we can do it, if we can
yeah.
do them, and then we have June 20th. So I think that, because there are times where someone legitimately can only go on certain dates.
right.
You know, people do have,
They've scheduled
They've
it.
scheduled it, and-
it's in stone as far as they're concerned. That's their
Yes.
that's their time. They
Yeah.
put everything together to go on that date.
I spoke with a guardian the other day who lives in Texas. His dad's in Westport. He's going to be flying up to meet with his dad. So, you know, and we've just kind of, so he said that he wants to put that one on hold until the fall to see what happens. So we've pulled him out of I think it was the June flight.
Okay. I remember Ricky Jenkins. His son flew up from Texas
Yeah.
to escort him. You know. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a big deal for the families, and they've blocked off their time to do this. So it's tough. So you can't just say, all right, the 9th is now the 23rd, and you just can't do that to folks, and so you try to be fair to everybody, and that's not always possible. So hopefully that all
And
that
I'm-
worry will be for naught, and on the 9th they'll.
you know, we
We'll all
hope,
be here.
but will we be able to bank on it if National's sticking with the April 3rd, and they are sticking with the April 3rd? Will
For
we
the
be able
time
to
being.
bet that they will?
For the time being,
Yeah,
but,
but if they extend that, it's gonna depend on how much notice they give us. That if that's extended, that we can't have a flight. I
Right.
mean, they're very clear, nobody can do a flight, so,
yeah,
you know, I have an interview, coming up next week, I believe it is, with a man who will be turning 100. World War II veteran who will be turning 100. You know, I jumped right in and said, I'll take that one.
I'll do that.
I went to visit one of our veterans from the September 7th flight of last year in a nursing home in Saratoga. Last week, he had fallen and broken his hip, and when I found out about it through his family,
Hmm.
I went down and he had just turned 91. So, you know, those are the things that you relish them, but then also with this that we're dealing with, I mean, the 91-year-old is already gone,
Right.
but,
He's
you know,
been
when you
on
look
his
at the
flight.
100,
Gone, but he's
the
been
hun-
one
I
on his
mean, yeah,
flight.
he's already been on the flight. We're looking at the 100-year-old, and then I have another one over the next couple of weeks, who will be, he's 97.
So this is why you can't book the whole year in advance, because these people
Absolutely.
pop up and
Absolutely.
they've got a priority. You can't tell that 100-year-old, well, you can go next year.
No,
You,
no.
you want to try to get him in this year.
And Sheriff Cutting had tried to get him to go for 4 or 5 years,
So,
and he absolutely just said, I don't want
So-
any part of it. So,
so you're saying you're better at this than
so well,
Richard Cutting was.
I just think again, I think that who knows, but
just-
you know,
you just-
whether it's, hey, I'm turning 100, I'm still here. If I'm going to do it, now's the time. I don't know what his thought process. I may know next week what his thought process was in this, but certainly it's, you know, it's going to be an interesting interview and interesting, and I hope we can get him there. And
Yeah.
those are the things that kind of, again, with what's happening, and I had to, again, there are several. You've been at some of these flights where, you know, there were folks who it just
Oh,
really had
just-
to be on those flights. It was the right time.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's on the, you know, I've been fortunate that I've been able to see the send-off on all the
Yeah.
flights. What have we got, 30, how many now? 30 what?
31 are done.
31 completed. So the one will be the 32nd one, and
Yeah.
just, you know,
I mean, the only thing we might have to do is switch the numbers, or we may just leave them. It's like, you know,
yeah,
so.
you can't call the 33rd the 33rd if the 32nd hasn't
Yeah,
gone yet.
no.
So
So we'll,
Yeah.
but, you know, other than that, hopefully everything will, and again, it's a very, very difficult,
yeah,
lots of tough decisions to make, and the decisions will be made based upon what's best for the
yeah,
veterans.
and it just, you know, again, getting back to what's happening with this coronavirus. You know, our plans were to cover high school basketball today and tomorrow, regional basketball, and as of 48 hours ago, that was still going on. As of early yesterday, they'd moved all the games to the home school, and then a couple hours later, all the games were canceled. So this is kind of like a forest fire here. You can't you can't
Yeah.
plan on what you're seeing right now, because you don't know an hour from now, 2 hours from now, things can change. So we're really in a situation of flux, and as old as Janet and I are, we've never witnessed anything like this
No, we have
before.
not. We have not, and that in and of itself is pretty amazing, Calvin.
We haven't seen it all yet.
We had an organization which is doing an event for us next week, and you know, we were saying, oh yeah, we can still go forward. And as of yesterday, you're right. I mean, yesterday with the way everything just blew up and I mean, no March Madness for heaven's sakes.
Yeah,
You know,
no.
and I'm not a big follower of it, but I certainly have family, you know, the Duprey family.
Yeah.
So it's just, we've got to really take this incredibly seriously. So
Yeah,
you're right. I mean, every 24 hours seems to bring a different.
Yeah, all the spring training baseball games, I was all set to go up to Montreal on the 23rd and 24th for the Yankees and Blue Jays, and
Yeah.
that's gone. And I'm sure they sold 100,000 tickets up there.
Oh, they must have.
And you've got people like I imagine Sam's Club's going to be the same boat as I saw Costco wasn't doing the free food samples. So you got people. It's going to be, you know. So you walk into Sam's Club and you don't get a free. You don't mind. That's somebody's job. That's, you know. So it's really going to affect our whole economy here. There's so many
It's-
people are going to be. You know, the people who depend on the students. BOCES, I mean, not the SUNY and CUNY schools are
Yeah.
online only. So
Right.
all the people in local businesses here in Plattsburgh who depend on those students, are those students going to bother coming up here, or are they going to stay back in their home? And unless it's in New Rochelle, they might come up here, but you know,
Yeah.
because so it's
And,
gonna,
and so many small businesses, well, and you look at the small businesses, we talk about SUNY Plattsburgh, the delis,
Yeah.
the chain, you know, the family-run places where so many students just go and.
yeah, we
And the downtown bars, I mean,
Yeah.
we can like them or hate them
Yeah.
for the students, but
Yeah.
they're a reality, and,
Sure.
and this is the time of year where they make their money. And for those of us who've been in business, We know you,
Yeah.
you make it while the people are around.
Yeah, and so it's not just disrupting the honor flight and
Oh,
our
yeah.
sports. It's really having an impact on
Yeah.
people's livelihoods, and we don't know how big this forest fire is going to be. You know, I'll compare it to what happened in Australia this year. We had this fire
Yeah.
that just got so far out of control, and that's just, what seemed like a little spark here a month or so ago was really,
Yeah. We're rescuing more than pandas right
yeah,
now, and
yeah,
and when you look at, and we can take New York City, which again, seems alien to us in so many ways, but the number of homeless children, and we have them here in our community too, although people don't recognize it often enough. Um, their only good meal is at school.
mm-hmm, yeah,
Because we always worry about them, and there are summer programs and summer meal programs that click in, but when you shut down schools at this time of year,
yeah.
you're going to have children who are starving.
There's their meal.
And, talk about ripping out your heart.
Yeah, yeah,
It's scary.
it is. Getting back to
We
the
got,
honor
we got
flight.
kind of off
Yes, we
topic
did,
here,
but,
didn't we?
Well, it was because we're living it right now,
Yeah.
and we're.
Yeah.
But getting back to that honor flight, and you mentioned Dulles Airport, and Judy and I went on one of the flights in 2018, and it was just so amazing, and particularly that little girl.
She's something.
There's this little girl
With that
pulls up the
sign.
sign, and when the bus takes off, she's running full steam right down the side of that, holding that sign. And of course, every year she gets a little older, so pretty soon she won't be a little girl anymore.
Yes.
But it just, but those people show up. I mean, we show up here because it's our community, it's
Yeah.
our veterans, it's us. But down there, they show up at every one of our honor flights,
Yes, they do.
and it's pretty much these same dedicated people. And it's not just one or two. There's dozens and dozens of them
Yes.
that show up down
And
there.
they greet each veteran, and they care for each veteran, and it's just, it is emotional. And I've shared, and you've heard me say it at some of the ceremonies when we had speakers, and we cut out the speakers, which I kind of pushed even when I was still a speaker. So I want to make that clear. It wasn't just because I got done, because I never did get done speaking, but I said, because everybody says the same thing, and let's spend more time doing bios and doing things just for the veterans. But one of the veterans who went on an honor flight, and he was in a wheelchair, and his wife was just so worried about him going. And I convinced her that he was going to be fine, everything would be all right. And we had, of course, we always have medical personnel.
Mhm.
And the following ceremony, and this was back in the beginnings, we were still doing it at the airport when we did everything right there, when we were still small enough. So when he came back the following send-off, I went over to him and I put my arm around him and I said, so, how was your flight? And he looked at me and the tears kind of came, and he said, it was the best day of my life. And then he glanced quickly over his shoulder and said, right after my wedding day. And I said, why, you old fox, no wonder you've been married over 60 years. So, and then talk about a guy who was spot on. But it's one of those things that will always stick with me, because I thought, first of all, his great sense of humor.
Yeah.
But secondly, a very reluctant veteran and wife. She was not his guardian, but
Mhm.
very reluctant family to have him going, who came back with such vivid memories and emotions. That's what Honor Flight's about. That's why we continue to volunteer.
Yes, as much as you and I and Judy or Barry or whoever goes, we don't have the same experience that these people have, because first of all, you're honoring them, and they were the ones who were over there, or even the ones who didn't didn't have bullets flying at their head. They were still there. That possibility of
Yeah.
being sent there was there. They were doing their part.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things we have to emphasize. We have so many veterans who say,
I'm
I
not
wasn't in
worthy.
combat.
I wasn't
I shouldn't
worthy."
go. I don't
Yeah.
have the right to go. And, it's, we try everything we can to say it doesn't matter what you were doing. Wars can't be successful. People's lives can't be saved if we don't have people that are there as backup and is doing all these other ends. I mean, you need to have a cook, you need to have somebody doing the paperwork, you need to have all of these pieces. And it's sometimes very difficult to make them believe in that. Again, I'll tell one of my, you were here certainly because you're at every ceremony, but the one bio that stretched out 3 times longer than anybody's was Ralph McClintock, who was on the USS Pueblo, had only been on it for a couple of weeks when they were captured, spent almost a year, just a few days shy of a year as a prisoner of war in North Korea. And the first message we had from him was an email, and it started out saying, "I'm not sure I am worthy of going. I never served in combat. I was just on the USS Pueblo." and I read that and I thought, wait, I've got to read that again.
That wasn't combat?
and I called him and I said, yeah. And obviously we got him on the next flight. And as we interviewed, there were things his wife had not heard before.
Yeah.
And he's very open about what went on, but it was a very long, it was a very intense interview. It was it was the hardest interview I've done, and I don't mean hard just because of what that man went through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's so humble. But this is where you just get where you. It's just great. I have said part of this coronavirus has got to get better because this elbow bump thing, you know I'm a hugger. I go to these so I can really hug these veterans. I don't know that an elbow of the veteran's going to do it for me. I'm going to have to really restrain myself.
We'll put a mask on or something.
Yeah.
Gloves. Apparently our hands are more important than the mask.
I guess.
So it's, in the area that the North Country Honor Flight covers, we go out to the west of here, we've had several from the Akwesasne area, and
we've gone as far as Ogdensburg.
Yeah, so this will be shown all the way into Ogdensburg on our cable system, and of course online it's available everywhere. But if you're watching this and you live somewhere in New York State, don't be bashful about contacting the North Country Honor Flight. Is there contact information we can give them? I know there's a
website.
There's a website.
nchonorflight.org.
Mm-hmm.
And our phone numbers are on there.
And the Facebook page is New North Country Honor Flight.
Yes.
There's still another one that's on there, but the active one is New North Country Honor Flight.
Yes.
So that's another way to contact. Would you dare to give a figure on how many people are on the active committee? I know some people might only do 1 or 2 things a year, but what they do is important. And
I don't even have a number for the number of volunteers, because you're right, some come for deer, but we have a meeting twice a month, and we usually have about 30 or more people there. And it varies depending on what's going on in the community, but
sure. It might not be the same 30 every
it's
meeting.
not the same 30.
But
and
so that gives you an idea that's 40, 50, 60, or that.
And again, those who come and help do things.
Park cars or whatever.
Yep.
And the veterans organizations that show up and do the flag ceremony and and play taps and all these other things. Just incredible
the ones who come in uniform to hand out the orders.
Yeah. Represent each branch of the service is represented, and so when they get their orders, they get it from a member of their department. Yeah.
And so they just do it without being asked.
Yeah.
The children from the school who come and sing every time. It's
red, white, and blue.
Red, white, and blue. And again, there's
Roy
always a
Hurd
Boy Scout troop, sometimes a Girl Scout troop. It's not like we have to go out and somebody's always here to sing the Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah. Tom Halleck shows up to be
Tom
the MC.
Halleck is wonderful.
Yeah. And now you got Larry Ebert, who's adopted this, and he raised enough for a flight last year, and he's working even harder this
Yeah.
year to put on a program. I don't have the top date at the top of my head, Larry, if I wish I did.
It's the first Sunday in May,
First
so,
Sunday in May, okay.
yeah, the second, I
So
believe,
if-
but,
Well,
and it's in the afternoon.
if the flight is on the 9th, on a Saturday, it must be the 3rd.
All right, let's see. I'm,
Yeah.
I have so many things on my
Well,
calendar.
whatever that first
That's
Sunday
true.
is.
I wasn't thinking about the 9th, yep,
Yeah.
yep. And it's
So,
on Sunday afternoon at the Shazy School.
Shazy's, yeah.
And Larry is the flight leader on May 26th. He was a fantastic assistant flight leader with me. He's very, very good, and you're right. I mean, he jumped into this lock, stock, and barrel, and an amazing volunteer. And yes, and Tom Hollick, we don't even, as soon as we have our dates, I send them to him, and immediate response, I'll be there.
Right.
Chris Craig at the airport.
At the airport,
Could
yeah.
not be more accommodating.
Well, and I'm thinking of it, we've recently had negotiations for flights out of, it's a contract, and
Yes,
I know Honor Flight was very much involved in making sure that these honor flights were still able to go off.
yes.
So you worked with the airline as part of their, I'll call it a contract or whatever, to provide flights for the Plattsburgh International Airport for the next term, whatever it is, 2, 3 years, 4 years. I'm not sure whatever the term is, but about what length of term is. But I know the Honor Flight was very much involved with them to make sure that these flights were available.
And United was tremendous in adding on the flights for
Right.
our honor flights,
Right.
because,
Those
they
aren't normal
switched to
flights.
they switched to their 5:30 in the morning, which
Yeah.
we would not have
No.
an honor flight.
No.
And they put in those Saturday flights so that we could do this, and
Yeah.
you can't, again, everybody is just, and I think that most of, hopefully all of the veterans understand it is because of them. When something like that happens in a huge corporation like United
Mm-hmm.
will say, we're going to make this happen to give these veterans what they deserve.
Right.
Um,
It's not because you and Barry sweet talked them, it's because they understand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. People just want to be able to be a part of that, to be able to say, I helped get that done. And I think that's the motive behind most of our volunteers. They just want to be able to say, hey, maybe I'm sitting at a table, maybe I'm helping park cars, but whatever I'm doing, I'm helping that veteran. Maybe I'm just showing up and standing in the
And
audience.
cheering them on.
The audiences, the group of people that we get,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever been here when somebody walking toward the bus didn't say, where all these people come from? Or look at all these people. And what a great feeling to know that.
Yeah, and
Our
as you
folks
said, it
care.
starts at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning, so these people are making an effort
Yes.
to be here. It's, do you know the 6 dates on the top of your head?
All right, now this is,
And again, these are,
I have them with me.
as of
As of now, May 9th,
5 of 11.
May 9th, May 23rd, June 20th, September 5th, and then we're gonna have to come up with a Saturday,
Well, it's
the 26th,
26th, 21 days
and
after.
October 17th.
So those are the tentative days. They
Well,
try to
but
schedule them.
You are a part of this honor flight family too, you can say we.
But they try to schedule them so that we're not freezing out here.
Yes.
Usually it's a little warmer and milder in Washington than it is up here, but 7 o'clock in the morning, you don't want to be out here. We've had some days where we've had to cover up the veterans with blankets and so on, so they try to schedule the dates so that temperature-wise it makes sense to be out here, and because, to be honest, it's tough. There was about at the
Rec center,
the
we've
rec
outgrown
center,
the rec center.
It's just, you can't
We
fit
can't do
everybody
it.
in that downstairs.
We're looking for alternatives, and we're gonna have some discussions if we
Because,
need to, particularly maybe October 17th, and none of the honor flights go in the summer, because it's just too hot
Right, in DC.
in DC, so that's where we may have to do a few more in the fall. We're still hoping to get those 6 flights in.
Yes.
And
Yeah. so-
hopefully May and June we can get the 3, and even if it's not the 9th, then we have to push it over. It's just such a guessing game.
At this point in time, again, as we're doing this on March 13th, 2020, and this coronavirus is just exploding every day, and hopefully it's going to implode and it'll start going in the other direction like it has in other countries around the world. It does seem to peak and then back off, but we can't predict that. We just hope.
Yeah, we just hope. But before we end,
Yes.
I want to say that, and we mentioned Tom Hollick, and Tom is wonderful. He's a great MC. But I also want to mention Calvin Castine, because you have not missed a ceremony. Your videos that you put on Hometown Cable are what we use often to say to veterans who aren't sure if they want to go, here's the link.
Mm-hmm.
Get on and look at our ceremony. Get on and see what we do. And usually we get a wow response back. That's also how we've gotten some volunteers. Who will say to me, what is Honor Flight? Here's the link.
Mm-hmm.
Go take a look. And you have filmed them all. You put them up there for everyone to see. We are incredibly grateful to you, and you are a part of our Honor Flight family.
It's hard to believe there's been 31,
Yeah.
31 of those already. Though.
Yeah.
Just amazing. And of course, I can't go without mentioning Gordy, who's got a name on the corner of the bus. But Gordy he was a couple of times he was out of town, but if he was here, he was.
You know my love for Gordy.
Yeah, and when Gordy and I first heard of this
Yeah.
honor flight happening, that's the first thing we did. Even before there was an honor flight, we got together when Danny Kafitz was organizing it. We went there and talked to the people, and did as much as we could to help promote this. And it's just how can you not?
When I went to that charter meeting in a back room at the Keysville Fire Station, and I don't know, it was cold, I know, because I drove up from Albany. And
you were an assembly person
I was
at that
an assembly
time.
person at the time, and Danny called me and said, you got to be at this meeting. And I drove in. I was so tired. I thought, I can't go to this meeting. I said, no, well, and of course, I had no idea what Honor Flight was. And I said, well, it has something to do with veterans. And again, part of my heart because of
Right.
Arthur.
Right, you lost his brother-in-law.
And my brother-in-law. And
in
I said,
Vietnam.
I'm going to stop at the fire station and see what's going on. And of course, I got hooked.
Right.
And never looked back. But I remember him saying, they were going to have flights in May that year, and I thought, oh, that'll never happen. We'll never get it off the ground in like 4 months, and we did. And I think we have certainly evolved over these years and into an amazing ceremony and an amazing way we handle everything and do everything. And I say we. I've only been really, really involved for a year, so I'm not taking any credit for this. But how everybody has.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to a lot of folks from others, and every honor flight is great and serving that same purpose of honoring the veterans. But so many of them, particularly when they come across the country, they come with a plane full of 100
Mm-hmm.
or more.
Yeah, there's some big flights.
They don't
around
have the
country.
guardians. They have a certain specific number of guardians, but not one-on-one, which we feel is so important.
I think it's more intimate.
And they obviously can't have a ceremony like we have. I mean, we've been
Right.
asked a few times, why don't you fill a plane? Why don't you get more? Why don't you do more? Because an hour is about the length of time we feel that a good ceremony can take place. And if you're starting adding another 10, then what do you take away? And we don't want to take away anything. We want to keep adding. We don't want to take away a single thing.
Right, you can add a flight instead of adding to
Yeah.
the size of that particular
Yeah.
flight.
And that's why we've now, we started with 4. Last year we did 5. This year we're up to 6,
Mhm.
hopefully.
Well, it's not wood, but we'll knock on it anyway.
I'm not going to start the October 17th flight yet until we know what's going on.
No,
But
so,
hopefully, yes.
okay, well, is there anything else, Janet, that you think you thought you might want to mention today?
I think we've pretty well covered it.
Unfortunately, Barry couldn't be with us, but,
I'm sure something,
yeah. so that's,
Barry is really the voice and the face of Honor Flight. I don't pretend to be able to have the knowledge that he has. I'm sure you'll have a chance to visit with him over the
Oh, yeah.
next few months and,
Yeah.
get his input. And um, I, he's just he's really great, and it's he and I have obviously developed a very close friendship, great working relationship, and we there aren't too many days that go by that we don't speak about something that's going on, and it's hey, what do you think?
That's Barry
And-
Finnegan again that we were talking
Yes.
about, and he's the executive director. That's his title.
Executive director. Keysville native, lives here in the city now,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, I know he got involved. His father was a
yes.
World War II veteran, as I recall,
His uncle Skip went on one of our flights.
and of course, like you said, you had a family member that was lost in Vietnam,
Yeah.
and
Arthur, yeah,
Yeah.
20 years old.
so there's a great website with old newspapers online, and if you go there and you start looking up names and you look at what I know my mother's family, the Trudeau boys. I think there were 5 of them that met over there at one time over in Europe. That, met for just brief hello goodbye,
Mhm.
but and you can imagine sitting at home with 5 of your sons out there, not knowing what's going to happen to them. They all came back. Some were wounded, but they all came back. But
Wow.
so many didn't, and not
Yes.
just World War II, but Vietnam, and it's not just a number. I remember, we're the same era, and I remember listening to the news reports, and it was almost at times it became so callous. They're almost like they're giving scores. We lost 50, but the Viet Cong lost
Oh, yeah.
300, so we won.
We won, yeah.
So it's every one of those 50 is a life and a family.
One of the interviews I had, the veterans first said to me he really didn't have anything to talk about. So we just sat there on his porch and chatted for a few minutes, and then he said, well, it wasn't a couple of Tet offenses. I said, okay, we'll start talking now.
Uh-huh.
And he said the day after Thanksgiving, his best friend was killed.
Wow.
And that and that's when he broke down, and his name is one of the ones we found for him on the wall, his
Mhm.
friend. And he said he had the privilege of escorting his body back for his family. The guy was in Pennsylvania. They became friends in Vietnam, and then he just looked at me and he said, and then the next day I was back in the jungle.
Mm-hmm. No time to heal. Just
And-
get
and
back out there.
it just
mentally heal.
Struck me as no wonder so many of our veterans have PTSD and have these, and that again is something that we haven't talked about,
Yeah.
but that is so important, and that they recognize
Veteran
it, that they
suicide
talk
is
about veteran
such-
suicide. 22 veterans a day
Yeah. We
Uh,
worry about
committing
this.
suicide.
We're worried about this COVID
Yeah.
virus, and we're
Yeah.
losing more than that every day
for suicide.
for veterans. And that's
And-
that's a finite number of people who qualify to be veterans in the first place.
Yes.
So if you took a percentage, it'd be scary what the percentages that we're losing.
And I've encouraged several of them. I mean, we talk about our first responders, and I've worked with them on PTSD issues, particularly when I was in the assembly. But, for our veterans, it is important, and there's no question that service dogs are a tremendous help, and there is now one on Long Island. And I don't have that. I didn't bring that information with me, but I'll have to get that up and put that out. That is doing veteran service dogs. So often we've had a couple of folks who have gone. They've had to go to the Midwest and stay there for quite some time to get a service dog.
Yeah.
Certainly Long Island, it may be almost as difficult to get there, but certainly it's
Yeah. a little bit
it's so much closer, and
Yeah,
and
day's
they are
drive,
now
yeah.
doing it. So
Okay. Yeah. So our topic was the upcoming North Country Honor Flights. Again, we're doing this on March 13th, 2020. I hope scheduling it for Friday the 13th isn't jinxing us here, but
we're not doing the jinxing.
would with things happening around the world, we're hoping with all of our fingers we can cross that this will take place. First one on May 9th, and the 23rd, and on that these 6 fights will happen.
I hope so.
And if they don't happen, it's not because these people haven't been working hard to make it happen. So, anything else, Janet?
No, that's it. I thank you for your time as always, and
All right.
if
Yeah.
I don't see you between now and the first flight, I know I will see you there.
Yes.
And thank you, Judy.
All right, thank you. Thanks for watching, and for those of you who support Hometown Cable.